Title, ONMY birthday, no one from MY family ATT and DED, not even MY spouse. I phone my wife. SHE chuckled, I'm in Europe with your wealthy sibling. MY sibling added, why care? She'll leave you soon. I stayed silent. I merely sent a photo of myself with an unexpected companion. My wife kept calling. I grinned, SWITCHED off MY device and OPENED the BOTTLES. Chapter 1. The deserted table. The eatery was hushed, save for the soft clatter of glasses from nearby tables. Balloons drooped against the ceiling, a cake remained untouched, and the clock moved past the time I'd requested everyone to arrive. I glanced at my phone, not one call, not one text. My spouse, my sibling, my kin. None of them were present on my birthday. Initially, I thought perhaps traffic had held them up, or maybe they were planning a surprise. But as minutes stretched into hours, the reality became painfully obvious. I called my wife. She answered with a giggle, music, and the clink of glasses echoing in the background. I'm in Europe with your wealthy sibling, SHE said, her tone LACED with derision. Then faintly I heard his voice too. My own sibling, why care? She'll leave you soon. The call ended. I stared at the device in my hand, my chest heavy, but my expression composed. There was nothing more to say. Instead, I opened my photo gallery, chose an image I'd prepared for this moment, and sent it to both of them. A picture featuring an unexpected companion. Within moments, my phone erupted with calls. Her name flashed repeatedly. My siblings, too. But I didn't pick up. I poured a drink, lifted the glass to my lips, and grinned as I powered off the phone. The evening wasn't ruined, no, it was just starting. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Companion. The phone kept vibrating on the table, but I let it buzz. I wasn't going to respond, not yet. The image I'd sent wasn't arbitrary. It was deliberate. In it, I stood side by side with a man they never anticipated seeing beside me. My father's longtime business associate, a billionaire investor who had quietly retreated from public view years ago. To them, he was unreachable, a legend. To me, he was kin, a guide who had stepped in when my own blood turned against me. In that single snapshot, smiling with a glass of whiskey in hand, I'd silently declared, I'm not alone. I've never been alone, that's why the calls flooded in. They understood what it signified. They realized this wasn't just me marking my birthday. This was me signaling that the scales of influence had tipped. My wife's laughter from Europe, my sibling's smug tone over the phone, both had believed I was powerless, that I had no one left. Now they saw their mistake, a grave one. As their calls went unanswered, I uncorked the first bottle. The sharp pop of champagne filled the quiet apartment. I poured 2 glasses, slid one across to my guest, and raised mine in a toast. To family, he said with a grin. The ones we choose, not the ones who betray us. I clinked my glass against his, the bubbles fizzing like mirth in the air. While my wife and sibling clinked glasses in Europe, thinking they'd defeated me, I was here, celebrating with the one man who could topple their entire world. And soon he would. Chapter 3. The Partnership. The bubbles sparkled softly in my glass, but my guest's words carried more gravity than any toast I'd ever heard. He leaned back, his gaze piercing, his voice steady. I knew your sibling would try to push you out someday. That's why I ensured my shares never went to him. He's careless. You're reliable. I froze. For years, my sibling had swaggered as if he controlled everything. The wealth, the family enterprise, the respect. But here, across the table, the man who had once funded our father's empire revealed the truth. My sibling's power was a mirage. And with a single signature, that mirage could vanish. We spoke late into the night. Business agreements. Old provisions my sibling had overlooked could now be enforced. Alliances. Silent partners in the company had grown weary of his arrogance. Timing, all it required was the perfect moment, and his empire would crumble like dust slipping through fingers. My guest vowed one thing. When the time came, I wouldn't need to shout, argue, or struggle. I'd only need to smile as my sibling's world collapsed under the weight of his own greed. As my wife and sibling laughed together in Europe, mocking my supposed weakness, I sat with the man who held the keys to their ruin. The betrayal had hurt, yes, but now it was morphing into something far stronger, opportunity. I turned my phone back on before midnight, just long enough to see another dozen missed calls from my wife, followed by a final message from my sibling. Enjoy your lonely little birthday. I grinned, set the phone face down, and raised my glass again. To the empire, I murmured, theirs is fading, mine is just beginning. Chapter 4. The first move. The birthday night melted into morning, but my composure hadn't wavered. If anything, it grew stronger. While my sibling and wife flaunted their new life in Europe, posting photos of their grandeur, I was already placing the first piece of the puzzle. I didn't confront them, didn't post online. I simply contacted the allies my mentor had connected me with, people my sibling didn't even know existed. By midday, old partners who had once backed my father began taking my calls. They weren't loyal to my sibling, they were loyal to stability, and they'd had enough of his hubris. Later that week, a subtle rumor emerged in the business world. Whispers spread that my sibling had been handling funds carelessly, endangering joint ventures. The rumor wasn't mine, but I knew exactly who had planted it. My guest had kept his promise. The empire would begin to erode from within. My sibling's name, once tied to confidence, was now linked to murmurs of instability. That same evening, my phone lit up again, this time not with laughter or scorn, but with desperation, a flurry of messages from my wife. "Where are you? Please answer. We need to talk. It's urgent." I didn't reply, not yet, because she hadn't grasped the most perilous part of betrayal. Once the facade falls, it can't be restored. They thought my silence on my birthday was weakness, but that silence was the first move. And soon it would resonate louder than their laughter ever had. Chapter 5. Fractures in their empire. The laughter and arrogance they displayed in Europe didn't endure. Like cracks in glass, their confidence began to splinter. Small at first, then spreading until everything they believed was solid threatened to shatter. My sibling's reckless spending had always been overlooked because people assumed he was untouchable. But now, with rumors of instability circulating, investors began probing deeper. One partner quietly withdrew from a joint venture. Another halted their funding, demanding explanations. The domino effect was catastrophic. Contracts stalled, projects froze, and the people who once clamored for his attention began ignoring his calls. For the first time, my sibling wasn't laughing, and my wife, the woman who had mocked me on my birthday, now flooded my phone with frantic messages. "He's not telling me everything. Do you know what's happening? People are talking about bankruptcy. Is it true? Please, let's talk." I made a mistake. Every message was evidence that her world, built on arrogance and betrayal, was collapsing around her. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because the mentor at my side had orchestrated everything flawlessly. Each whisper, each frozen account, each withdrawn contract. All of it had been designed to reveal one truth. My sibling was no empire builder. He was reckless and he was finished. On my birthday, they ridiculed me, certain I was powerless. Now, just weeks later, their empire was crumbling, their laughter silenced, and their phones buzzing with the kind of desperation I had once felt. The difference was I wasn't desperate anymore. I was in command. Chapter 6. The public shame. The collapse of their private empire wasn't enough. The world needed to witness it. And when it came, it was swift, brutal, and unforgettable. The first blow landed in the media. A prominent financial journal ran a headline, "Siblings Company Faces Cash Flow Crisis, Investors Retreat." It wasn't just a business note. It was a mark of disgrace. His name, once linked to power, was now tied to failure. Rivals mocked him, investors abandoned him, former allies avoided his calls, unwilling to be associated with him. But the true humiliation came at the charity gala he had insisted on attending. This was the event he'd boasted about for years, where he strutted with my wife on his arm, acting like royalty. This time, whispers trailed them everywhere. Guests didn't smile, they smirked. Business leaders who once fawned over him now offered cold, pitying glances. Then, as if perfectly timed, a large screen cycling through sponsor logos flickered. One of the investors who had withdrawn publicly thanked me for upholding my father's legacy responsibly. The spotlight found me across the room where I stood with my mentor and a circle of allies. My sibling froze. My wife paled. The room buzzed with murmurs. They tried to act unfazed, but everyone saw. Their betrayal, their arrogance, their untouchable image, all shattered before hundreds of eyes. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to confront them. My silence spoke louder than any victory speech. On my birthday, they mocked me, laughing from Europe. But under the gala's chandeliers, it was my turn to smile, while they tasted the bitter sting of regret. Chapter 7. The final strike. Their empire had fractured, their reputation lay in ruins, but one last move remained. The strike that would end everything they thought they controlled. Behind the scenes, my mentor and I had prepared for weeks. The agreements my sibling had signed carelessly, the debts he had ignored, the silent partners he had betrayed. All of it had been carefully documented. When the lawsuit hit his desk, it wasn't just a case, it was a wrecking ball. Breach of fiduciary duty, misuse of family assets, fraudulent transfers through hidden accounts. The court froze his accounts immediately. Properties he bragged about owning were seized pending investigation. His European lifestyle collapsed overnight, flights canceled, cards declined, allies vanished, and my wife, the woman who had laughed on my birthday while sipping champagne with him, she was pulled down with him. Once the finances were locked, she realized the wealthy sibling she'd chosen had nothing left to offer. Her calls to me shifted from arrogance to pleading. Please, I was wrong, I made a mistake, let's fix this. But mistakes can't be undone when they're chosen deliberately. I didn't respond, I didn't need to. Her regret was her cage and she'd live in it forever. The media feasted on the story. The once-proud power couple became fodder for scandal, fraud, and betrayal. While they were shunned, I was invited to take the stage. The rightful heir to my father's legacy. The man who endured betrayal with calm precision. I didn't need revenge served hot. I let it simmer, patient and silent, until the perfect moment to serve it cold. In court, in the press, and in their own broken reflections. On my birthday, my wife laughed, "I'm in Europe with your rich sibling." Now, years later, the only caption that followed them was this: bankrupt, disgraced, abandoned. And me. I smiled, opened another bottle, not in anger this time, but in peace, because their laughter had ended and my silence had triumphed. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the story if you believe this justice was deserved. Share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's story for more gripping tales of betrayal and reckoning. Because here, every deception meets its consequence and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay resilient, and stay tuned.